Mike, All Fellas Travels. Time for a quick tailgate talk. I want to talk very briefly about it. Was a stark reminder this morning, hanging out to Prospect, and it turned out being too wet. So consequently, that became a good thing, and I'll explain why in a minute. But it was a stark reminder to me how long it can take to get help if you're in an incident, an accident, injured, tagged by a snake, whatever happens. But it was very much a reminder for me this morning on how long it can take to get somebody to come and help. And it's prompted me to probably want to go back to Perth. I'm going to do a refresh. I'm going to update, my refresh myself on the new techniques for such things as CPR, resuscitation, treatment of wounds, broken bones and such. And I think it's probably a good thing to keep that up to date. It even almost makes me think, and I'll talk about why this topic has come up, almost makes me think that, like most people should really, if they've got a licence and they're in the Outback especially, that maybe you should do at least the basic first aid course. So this video is actually about the new mattress that I've got for the rooftop tent that arrived that arrived Friday. But I thought it was a good opportunity to throw in a tailgate talk at the start of it to talk about what happened this morning. Now, this morning, me and Rob were heading out. We've had, quite a bit of rain, I think 40 odd mil in Leonora, and they were talking like up to 60 mil as you head further east out towards Laverton and out, on the Great Central. So the road was actually cut in both directions for 2 days. Namby Road, which is the dirt road that gets out on the more northern side of Leonora, that was still closed at 7 o'clock this morning. So me and my mate Rob decided maybe we'll go down the Laverton Road, see how far we can get down there and get out to a site we'd been to. And once we got out there and seen how much water on the edge of the road, we pretty much worked out straight away. We'd only gone 5k down the Leonora Laverton Road. We'd pretty much had the same opinion and jumped on the radio and said, well, I think we're going to call it a day. Now remember, we just travelled 5k's out and the road was clear. We turned around and we headed back, and 2k's down the road or thereabouts, here's a 76 series Land Cruiser all busted up, 80 metres of rubbish everywhere. It would just completely come apart in the windows as such. And there we found a young lady. Here's this young lady, sitting on the ground in a lot of pain. She'd crawled out through the front windscreen, and on examination she had a pretty bad gash on her right arm just below the elbow, and as time went on the arm began to swell quite a bit, and so I'm suspecting a broken arm and a pretty nasty gash or puncture wound in that arm. She wasn't aware of any other injuries, but I suspect that the pain from the arm, which seemed extensive, was probably masking any other pains. To be quite honest, I think she was pretty lucky when you consider the vehicle, and the amount of gear that was in that vehicle was just full of a spare tyre and tools, and the tools were all spread over the road, and how she survived. Half of those tools were in the front of the vehicle. Now, I'm not knocking the police, and I'm not knocking the ambulance system, because it is what it is out in the goldfields, and it was quite a remote location, but it was somewhere around about between 35 and 40 minutes, I think, by the time we could get a police officer out there, and it was probably 50 minutes by the time the first contender was there, like some medical staff was there, and it was probably a good 5 minutes after that before the ambulance was there. Most of this is volunteer stuff. The paramedic, or I believe she was a paramedic or certainly well qualified first aid person, she may have come from the hospital, but the ambulance drivers, those guys are all, they're volunteers, so you're really counting. I assume they have a roster, but they've got to get notified, they've got to get down, they've got to have the ambulance ready to go. There's a lot involved, and then they have to find exactly where it is. So by no means am I laying any blame on the services for taking so long. It's just a factor of being in remote locations. You know, there's a lot of things that have to happen to get somebody out. But it started me thinking, and I wouldn't consider, you know, the young lady had life-threatening injuries, but she was in a lot of pain. But at one stage I thought she was going into shock, and that can be life-threatening. You know, in these remote localities, the first 5 or 10 minutes is probably the most critical when somebody's injured. And kudos to everybody that passed, even the truckies, you know. Truckies pulling a big haul, even the truckies pulled up and asked if we needed a hand, if everything was okay, if they needed a radio call. You know, so even they interrupted their, you know, their days or their morning's work to make sure that, you know, everybody was okay. But it is a stark reminder that, you know, guys, if you're out in the bush, I carry a very comprehensive first aid kit. I have for a while. Comprehensive snake kit. I've always believed that you shouldn't go anywhere without that. But it does bring to mind that, guys, if you know, if you haven't got any first aid or medical experience, even just the basic course could give you the skills you need to save somebody's life. So imagine if we pulled up there and that the young lady was bleeding quite badly, or needed resuscitating, you know, any number of things that could have been life-threatening. From looking at the accident, she was very, very lucky she wasn't injured much worse. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But if you're traveling remotely, guys, maybe, or you're planning a big trip, planning on touring, you know, maybe go and do at least the basic first aid course. But it could save, you know, your partners, your friends, you know, your girlfriends. It could actually save their life. Just having a little bit of knowledge to stop you panicking and to know what to do, especially if it's a wound that's bleeding profusely. You know, that's the first responder is going to, within a few minutes, is going to save that person's life, you know, just purely simply for controlling the bleeding. That's about all I've got to say, but just keep it in mind, guys. You know, it was a real nudge back into the realism of what can happen out in these remote areas, and a stark reminder of, I tell you what, it's taken about 10 k's an hour off my speed limit, because it is quite confronting, you know, especially if you haven't been involved in you know, relatively serious injuries or car accidents or the like. So it can be very confronting. Thanks, guys. Okay, let's head across and have a look at this new blow-up mattress that I've got from Drifta Stockton. I think it's going to be a bit of a cracker. So here we are at the dot. It's out the front of me on my friend's place at the moment because I'm doing a bit of house sitting. I've pulled the bedding out. Now, one thing, you know, I've had this rooftop tent, the Wildlands rooftop tent, Wildland Cruiser I think it is, for I think it must be coming up to certainly over 3 years, and this thing has spent probably 10 years worth of time out in the weather, and most of it in the heat and some pretty nasty storms and a bit of time on the coast, because you've got to remember that apart from last year, I was spending 8 months of the year out prospecting, and this was open pretty much 24/7 for 8 to 9 weeks at a time. Now, this was the original foam mattress that Drifta started selling for them. Having the filler and air release valves on the corner, I found that a little bit difficult because they were very hard to get into when I was up in the rooftop tent, and also found you had to be careful. You had to be careful where they were situated when you closed the rooftop, because you can see I actually crushed that one. Got caught under the side and I didn't realise. So anyway, let's crank it open. I haven't opened it yet. There's the box. Like I said, I only picked it up on Friday. It comes in a nice bag actually, whereas the other one didn't. This comes in a nice bag, and I can tell you from experience that bags from Drifta are always plenty big enough. You know, you'll always have room for something extra in a bag if it's made by Drifta. I've got to tell you, that's one thing they do really well. They always have very generous sized bags. So it comes in a nice sturdy bag, which is good. So here's the bag that comes in. I mean, look how generous that bag is, guys. And I know, you know, I'm sure someone's going to say it's always like that when you first buy something, and it's probably true. There's probably more space than you'll end up with, but I've got to tell you, Drifta bags, the Drifta Stockton bags, for your swag, you know, your sleeping bags, whatever, they always have a really generous bag, and I've never had any trouble getting my stuff back into the bag. It's rolled up a bit like a swag. Oh, there's a bloody bindi. Bloody prickle. We don't want that there. It's got a couple of nice straps around it, so let's undo these. This is basically how it's come, guys. I've just taken the plastic off it. Plastic bag that it came in. We'll pop those out. And take those off and put them to one side. They can go back in the bag. So inflating these, you've got to be careful, guys. Deflating them is okay, but I just let them inflate naturally, because I think that's maximum. I think it's saying 4.5. That may be kilopascals. The air mattress is self-inflating. Please do not use. Yeah, so don't manually inflate it. They do self-inflate very well. So I've gone to the trouble of rolling out, but I can tell you already. Oh, there's a bit of sand in there. Could do with a vacuum cleaner, but I can tell you already that this is a nicer fitting mattress than the other one. But you can see, you know, when you suck it down, it's quite thin, and that leaves plenty of room. I'm going to have no trouble. That's definitely thinner than what the old one used to suck down to. The other thing that you'll note is, now there's one on the side, it's over that side, but you can see that this one here is in the center, which is going to make for much easier, I mean, you know, sucking it down. I can just lift that up, and where is my blower? So here's the Mighty Makita, but you pretty much just put, which is the sucker side of the blower. So there's the sucker, and you pretty much just take the nozzle off there and place it, just, it fits perfectly just inside that head there, and you suck the mattress down nice and thin. And you know, it sucks down thinner than the other one, I believe, from memory. I do think that the other one, I might have a slight hole in the other one, but geez, she's had some punishment, so I'm not sure if the other one did originally used to suck as thin as this, but that's very thin. I'll certainly be doing a mini review again once I've slept a couple of nights to let you know how the comfort factor goes. It's all right, team. I've got the bedding in there, so but it's quite a heavy dooner. It's not a cheap dooner, it's a good down dooner. So it is quite heavy, and it is quite thick. Underneath that, I've got the sleeping bag flat out, which forms my base, basically my sheet. So the next thing is to we'll zip up, and it's probably time to close the tent up and see how it is. Now, I haven't got a pillow in there, but I have a soft pillow that could go in there. I have a heavy latex type pillow that doesn't compress very much, and generally I just leave that in the back of the car until I need it. Okay, so you can see I've got the tent pretty much folded back, ready to bring down and compress. So we'll get that underway. So I can tell you already, that's it. I might even have to put a couple of turns on the over centre latches to firm it up, but that is made. I've got all that bedding in there. I could probably get a pillar in there now, actually. So let's have a look, see how hard the latches are to do up. I normally start with this end one here, but oh guys, look at that. I'm going to have to screw that in a bit. That's how much difference it's made. Wow. Right. Oh, that could even be a bit tighter, I reckon. Screw that down a little bit more. I did have to loosen them off a bit. So we get it. Oh, look at that. Oh, beautiful. I'll have to do the same with the one around the back. Oh, that closes so nicely now. Stop it! Oh. I gotta tell you guys, that's an absolute pleasure putting that down there. No more getting up and sitting on the bloody side to compress it a bit. So there we go. Installation and preparation of the new Drifta Stockton 1.2 size inflatable mattress. Let's see how it goes once we get out bush. Take it easy guys. Keep in mind the start of this video and what I spoke about. Very important, very serious stuff. Until then, next video should be me on the gold. Or at least prospecting, but let's hope I'm on the gold. There you go team. This is the old fella signing out. Woof. Yeah mate. Open. They're a very good tent. Put the edits once I've laid. So I didn't mention before.